Welcome to the Midnight Vigil, the channel where the stars are always right and there really is a monster hiding underneath your bed. This is the second episode of Cemetery Dance, the series where I discuss true crime cases. Tonight I'll be discussing the murder of Sherri Taylor. As usual, I'll walk you through the case, give my impressions, and close with the case's overall legacy. Sherri Taylor was described by those who knew her as a fun loving, outgoing teenage girl. She attended Bayou View Junior High in Gulfport, Mississippi, and had a job at a local arcade where she made change. On July 11th, 1978, just 3 weeks before her Sweet 16 celebration, she was murdered. During the police investigation into her death, police discovered that she had been raped, semen covering her entire body, and that she had been stabbed multiple times, with wounds on her face, neck, and eyes. She had also been strangled with a jump rope as well. The murder was brutal, and police felt that Sherri must have known her attacker. Her father, William Taylor, whom Terry had been living with since her parents' divorce, said that he found her after he got home from work. He found her body leaning over the tub and her head underwater like she was washing her hair. William Taylor said that a little girl and a dream died. Police arrested a suspect in the murder, a 16-year-old maintenance worker at the trailer park where Sherri and her father lived, but a grand jury refused to indict, citing that there was a lack of evidence in the case. "It's still a big question mark for me," William Taylor said, "but in the long run, the Lord will take care of it. I don't have to see anybody croak. I don't have to see anybody fry. The Lord has taken care of it." After the refusal of the grand jury, the case went cold, and investigators found themselves with no leads or suspects in the case. 30 years later, police got the break they were looking for. After re-interviewing William Taylor about the death of his daughter, police received a disturbing admission. William Taylor admitted to having a sexual relationship with his daughter, claiming they had been intimate in the lead-up to her death, but he didn't rape or murder her. Using techniques that were not available then, DNA evidence collected from William Taylor following this interview matched the semen samples taken from the scene, and police arrested and charged William Taylor with 2 counts of sexual assault, for which he received a 10-year sentence. So, my impressions. This is obviously a disturbing case, isn't it? He admits to being in a sexual relationship with her, which is beyond disgusting, but claims that it wasn't rape. That's an amazing admission, which he sat on for 30 years. Of course, he knew that if he told investigators that in 1978, that he'd been arrested and would likely have been charged with her murder. His semen was found on her body, and police suspected that Sherri knew her killer. This is based on the killer stabbing her eyes, an act that suggests he was ashamed of what he'd done and wanted her to look away as he violated and murdered her. So we've got his DNA at the scene, there's the implication that she knew her attacker, but there apparently isn't enough evidence to charge him with her murder as well. What? That's pretty crazy, isn't it? It's circumstantial, to be sure, but most cases are solved with circumstantial evidence. In criminology, there's this thing called the CSI effect, which states that the popularity of crime TV shows has prevented juries from making conclusions in cases where a smoking gun hasn't been obtained. But here he wasn't even charged with her murder, and at this point, 7 years after the interview, it doesn't seem likely, does it? We're at the 40th anniversary of her murder this summer, and we still don't know who murdered Sherri Taylor. So, for the conclusion, let's talk about the legacy of Sherri Taylor's murder. I spoke with someone who knew Sherri and was friendly with her in high school, and this source told me that everyone for years had been saying that the father had killed her. Other comments that I saw on social media and crime forums suggested that William Taylor's age might have played a part in his sentencing, since at the time of the re-interview he was in his late 70s. I can't really comment on this because it defies expectation. If someone can be charged with a crime, and evidence suggests that they are responsible for a murder, why not charge them? We have to assume that there just wasn't enough evidence available, but that's a bit of a tough pill to swallow, isn't it? Again, I don't point fingers on this show, but the circumstantial evidence seems to suggest a conclusion to this case, a conclusion that will never be coming. Sherri's oldest sister, Stephanie Taylor, gave her take on the arrest, saying, "I am thrilled beyond measure. Maybe some people will come forward to help answer our questions," she said. She went on to thank the Biloxi police and local news media in their coverage of the case, saying that keeping the case in the minds of the public was key to obtaining the new evidence. That's essentially all we can do in this case, is if we keep Sherri's story alive and we keep telling it and we keep reminding people about what happened to her, maybe something new will come. But again, this is the 40th anniversary of her murder, and as more time goes on, suspects and witnesses will naturally either die or move away, and it's less likely that a definitive answer can be obtained. That's the harsh reality of this case. Disclaimer: there's limited information available, so I didn't have a lot of sources that had different information to give a good narrative of what happened to Sherri Taylor. All of the sources I consulted said pretty much the same thing, and the real-life sources I used all believed William Taylor to be the culprit. As always with the real-world cases I cover on this channel, I have portrayed the narrative as truthfully as I could, but if there are any discrepancies in my information, I will of course correct any mistakes. If there are any future updates to this case, I will be covering them as well. Hopefully we'll one day get an answer and conviction for Sherri's murder. I really feel for her family here. If you like this video and are new to the channel, feel free to subscribe, and if you have a Twitter, you can follow me at Midnight Vigil. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time.